God says, I need your 2 minutes right now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Right now. This is not a casual whisper. This is not background noise. This is a divine interruption breaking into your routine because something extremely serious has already been set in motion. You did not click on this by accident. You did not hear these words randomly. Heaven does not shout without reason, and it does not issue a final alert unless the clock is already ticking. There are moments in life that pass quietly, and then there are moments that divide your life into before and after. This is one of those moments. Something has already begun moving behind the scenes. While you were going about your day, while you were distracted, while you were postponing decisions you knew you needed to make, the spiritual realm was not still. Actions create reactions. Obedience activates protection. Delay activates consequences. And now, God is asking for just 2 minutes because those 2 minutes hold the power to intercept what is unfolding. When heaven says something has been set in motion, it means a chain of events has already started aligning. The direction of that chain depends on your response. Why 2 minutes? Because sometimes destiny does not require a lifetime of effort. Sometimes it requires a moment of surrender, a moment of identity, a moment of humility. You may think you need hours to pray, days to prepare, or weeks to change. But God is not asking for your entire schedule. He is asking for your focus. 2 undivided minutes where your heart is open and your spirit is listening. Those 120 seconds could reroute what would otherwise become irreversible. And this is where the seriousness comes in. The title says that if you ignore this message again, you will not be able to reverse what happens next. Again. That word means this is not the first nudge, not the first warning, not the first inner conviction. There were other signs, other quiet invitations, other moments when you felt that pull to pause, to pray, to stop what you were doing and listen. Maybe you dismissed them. Maybe you told yourself you would deal with it later. Maybe you convinced yourself it was just emotion. But heaven kept record of every delay. This is your final alert. Those words are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to wake you. A final alert is issued when the window is about to close, when the last call is being announced, when the opportunity to intervene is almost gone. There are divine windows in life that do not stay open forever. When they close, they do not close with noise. They close quietly, and only later do people realize what they lost. God is warning you before that silence falls. And then there is the timestamp, before tonight, 11:59 p.m. That is not random language. 11:59 is the last minute before a shift. It is the final breath before a new day begins. It represents the edge of transition. Once the clock strikes midnight, you cannot return to the previous day. Time moves forward whether you are ready or not. Spiritually, 11:59 p.m. symbolizes the last opportunity to act before a change becomes permanent. When God says open this before 11:59 p.m., He is saying this is the final minute before consequences mature. You may feel resistance rising in you even now. Thoughts like, this is dramatic or I'll come back to this later. That resistance is exactly why this message is urgent. Distraction is the enemy's greatest weapon against destiny. If he cannot destroy you directly, he will delay you strategically. He will make the urgent feel optional and the critical feel casual. But this is not casual. This is not entertainment. This is not background sound while you scroll. This is a line drawn in the sand between obedience and regret. Do not skip God. Those 3 words carry weight. When you skip a psalm, you lose only a melody. When you skip a notification, you miss only information. But when you skip God, you risk missing instruction. You risk missing protection. You risk missing a route that could spare you from pain you never saw coming. The cost of skipping God is rarely visible immediately. It shows up later as confusion, as doors closing, as opportunities slipping through your hands. And then you remember there was a moment you were asked for 2 minutes, and you gave it something else instead. Right now, heaven is not asking for perfection. He is asking for attention. Not performance, but presence. The seriousness of this message is not rooted in punishment. It is rooted in prevention. Something has already been set in motion, but it is not too late to respond. That is why this alert exists. That is why you are hearing these words before the day ends. The window is narrow, but it is still open. This is your interruption. This is your pause. This is your final alert before 11:59 p.m. And what you choose to do in the next 2 minutes could determine what unfolds next. There is a pattern that many people never recognize until it is too late. It is the pattern of ignored warnings. God does not usually begin with a final alert. He begins with a whisper, a gentle nudge, a small discomfort in your spirit that something is not aligned. Think back for a moment. How many times have you felt that inner pull to change something, to stop something, to start something, and you told yourself, "I'll deal with it later"? How many times did you sense you were supposed to pray, reach out, forgive, walk away, or make a bold decision, and you postponed it because the timing did not feel convenient? Heaven has been speaking longer than you realize. Before this message ever reached you, there were signs. Maybe they came through repeated situations that kept cycling in your life. The same kind of disappointment, the same type of conflict, the same door closing again and again. Patterns are not accidents. Patterns are signals. When something repeats, it is often because a lesson was delayed. God allows repetition not to punish you, but to wake you. But when repetition is ignored, escalation follows. There were moments when you felt conviction and brushed it off. Moments when you said, "It's not that serious." Moments when you chose comfort over obedience. You may not have called it disobedience. You called it being busy. You called it being tired. You called it waiting for the right time. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. And every delay adds weight to what is already in motion. The spiritual law of response is simple but powerful. What you respond to grows, and what you ignore intensifies. When you respond to God quickly, clarity increases. Protection strengthens. Be settled. But when you repeatedly ignore divine instruction, the volume does not decrease. It increases. The warnings become stronger. The urgency becomes sharper. And eventually, what was once a whisper becomes a final alert. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. If you are hearing this, it means mercy is still speaking. It means the story is not finished. But you cannot pretend that this is the first time God has tried to reach you. Deep down, you know there were earlier invitations. Perhaps you felt them when you were alone at night and your thoughts would not quiet down. Perhaps you sensed it when something inside you said, "This path is not right." Perhaps you even promised yourself you would change after the next mistake. Yet here you are, facing a moment that feels heavier than the ones before. There is a cost to delaying obedience. The cost is not always immediate disaster. Sometimes the cost is slow erosion. Opportunities pass. Favor feels distant. Peace becomes harder to hold. You begin to feel like you are running in circles. and you wonder why nothing is shifting. But what if the shift was waiting on your response all along? What if heaven paused certain blessings because it was waiting for you to honor the last instruction? Something extremely serious has already been set in motion. That does not mean it can't be redirected. It means the time for casual listening is over. This is not background noise while you multitask. This is not another video to scroll past. This is a checkpoint. A spiritual checkpoint where your response matters more than your feelings. And I need you to do something right now, not just spiritually, but practically. If this message is stirring something inside you, don't keep it silent. Type "I am listening" in the comments as a declaration that you are no longer ignoring the voice of God. When you comment, you are not just engaging with a video. You are making a public commitment in the spirit that you will respond differently this time. Like this video so it reaches someone else who is standing at their own 11:59 p.m. moment. Share it with someone who had been hesitating, someone who keeps saying later, not realizing later is running out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and become part of a community that refuses to skip God when He speaks. Hype this message with your engagement, because someone else's breakthrough may be tied to you choosing to amplify it. The enemy thrives in silence and hesitation. But when you respond openly, when you declare, when you engage, something shifts. You move from passive observer to active participant. And that is what this season requires. No more passive listening. No more all of obedient. No more half responses. This pattern of ignored warnings ends here. God would not issue a final alert if there were no hope. He would not call for your 2 minutes if those 2 minutes could not alter what is unfolding. But the weight of this moment is heavier because it follows a series of smaller moments you overlooked. Do not treat this like those. Do not file this away as another emotional surge that fades by tomorrow morning. Heaven is escalating because it loves you too much to let you drift without intervention. The question is not whether God has been speaking. The question is whether you will finally answer. Why would God ask for only 2 minutes? Because sometimes the difference between disaster and deliverance is not measured in hours, but in surrender. 2 minutes may seem small to you. It may feel insignificant compared to the weight of your responsibilities, your stress, your distractions. But in the spirit, 2 minutes of true attention can shift what years of avoidance could not fix. When heaven asks for 2 minutes, it is not about the clock. It is about agreement. In 2 minutes, you can say yes. In 2 minutes, you can repent. In 2 minutes, you can release bitterness. In 2 minutes, you can break agreement with fear. In 2 minutes, you can realign your heart with God's instruction. The power is not in the length of time. The power is in the decision made within that time. Destiny often turns on decisions that take seconds to speak but shape years to come. Something has already been set in motion. That means there is momentum building somewhere you cannot see. Perhaps it is a consequence that has been forming quietly. Perhaps it is a door that is about to close because you delayed too long. Or perhaps it is a blessing waiting for your alignment before it is released. Motion in the spirit does not pause simply because you are unsure. It continues. And the only thing that can intercept negative momentum or activate positive momentum is your response. 2 minutes right now could become a divine interruption in a chain reaction. Imagine a line of falling dominoes. Once they begin to fall, they move quickly, each one striking the next. But if someone reaches in at the right second and removes one piece, the entire sequence is disrupted. That is what these 2 minutes represent. An opportunity to reach into what has already begun and remove the piece that would have triggered something irreversible. You may think, what could I possibly do in 2 minutes that would matter that much? But God has never required complexity. He requires obedience. Those 2 minutes might be spent in silence, acknowledging where you have ignored Him. They might be spent praying a simple prayer: Lord, I hear you. I will not delay again. They might be spent deciding to send a message you have been avoiding, to end a habit you know is draining you, or to take a step you have been postponing. What matters is not the format. What matters is the sincerity. When you respond quickly, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere around you. Heaven recognizes urgency as honor. When you treat God's voice as priority, you place yourself under divine covering. There is protection attached to prompt obedience. There is acceleration attached to immediate surrender. The invisible realm responds to your agreement faster than you realize. But here is the deeper truth. The enemy also knows the power of 2 minutes. That is why distraction increases when destiny is close. Have you noticed how suddenly you feel the urge to check something else? How your mind wants to wander? How something inside you says, "Finish this later." That is not random. It is resistance. Because if you take these 2 minutes seriously, something will break. A cycle will be interrupted. A delay will end. This is not about emotion. It is about alignment. God is not demanding performance. He is inviting partnership. He is saying, "Meet me halfway. Give me 2 minutes of undivided attention, and watch what I will do with it." The seriousness of this message is not rooted in threat. It is rooted in opportunity. The chain reaction that has begun can still be redirected, but the window is narrow. And let me say this clearly, you will feel the difference after you respond. It may not be fireworks. It may not be dramatic signs. But there will be clarity. There will be a subtle peace that tells you alignment has been restored. And that peace will guard you as the clock moves closer to 11:59 p.m. Because when you respond within the window, you step out of panic and into purpose. Before we go further, receive this prophetic act of agreement. Type "I respond now" in the comments if you are taking your 2 minutes seriously. Blessing code 642 is now activated over every person who chooses immediate obedience. As you type it, let it seal your decision in the spirit. And hear this retention reminder in your heart. What comes next will reveal why these 2 minutes were more critical than you imagined. The next part will expose what has already been set in motion in greater detail, and you will understand why heaven refused to stay silent. Right now, the choice is in your hands. 2 minutes can feel small, but in the realm of destiny, they are massive. Do not underestimate what can shift when you answer immediately. Your obedience in these 2 minutes is not just about you. When you sow into what God is doing here, you become part of a greater harvest of souls who are standing at their own 11:59 p.m. moment. Scripture declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not a distant verse. It is God speaking directly to you, promising that what you release becomes seed in fertile ground. I feel led to say this plainly. I am asking you to act in faith right now. If this message is awakening you, support this mission through super thanks, channel membership, or a PayPal donation using the link in the description or the PayPal QR code on the screen. Your giving becomes oil that keeps this light burning, reaching those who are about to miss their final alert. Do not treat this as a donation. Treat it as a prophetic response. As you sow, may open heavens respond over your life, and may every seed return to you as protection, clarity, and divine acceleration. Step into this moment and give as an act of obedience. When God says something extremely serious has already been set in motion, He is not speaking in symbolism alone. He is revealing that movement has begun in realms you cannot see. Too often, people assume that if nothing looks different on the outside, nothing is happening. But the most decisive shifts begin invisibly. Foundations crack long before buildings fall. Seeds grow roots long before green appears above the soil. And consequences form long before they fully manifest. There is spiritual momentum attached to every decision. Every time you ignore a warning, agree with fear, delay obedience, or continue in something you were told to leave behind, energy is released into motion. It does not disappear. It travels forward. Think of it like a current in a river. Once it starts flowing in a certain direction, it gains strength the longer it moves uninterrupted. That is what heaven means when it says something has already been set in motion. A current has been flowing. Perhaps it is a relational situation that has been deteriorating slowly because hard conversations were postponed. Perhaps it is a habit that has been tightening its grip because you kept promising to stop soon. Perhaps it is a spiritual dryness that has been spreading because prayer became optional instead of essential. These things do not explode overnight. They accumulate. They gather force quietly. But it is not only negative momentum that can be set in motion. There are also blessings waiting for alignment. There are doors that were prepared for you, opportunities positioned with your name attached, favor scheduled for release. Yet even blessings move according to alignment. When obedience is delayed, doors can pause. When hesitation persists, timing can shift. Not because God is cruel, but because divine order matters. Right now, there is movement. You may not see it, but you may feel it. A tension. A sense that something is approaching. That is not imagination. That is discernment. Heaven does not issue a final alert unless the trajectory is reaching a critical point. Imagine a train traveling toward a switch in the tracks. Once it passes that switch, it cannot instantly jump back to the previous line. It continues where it has been directed. You are standing near that switch right now. The seriousness lies in the phrase, you will not be able to reverse what happens next. Reversal requires interception before completion. Once a word is spoken, it cannot be unspoken. Once an opportunity expires, it cannot always be recreated. Once a pattern solidifies, it becomes harder to break. God is not saying this to condemn you. He is revealing the weight of timing. Timing is not flexible forever. There are spiritual laws at work whether you acknowledge them or not. Agreement empowers. Delay strengthens resistance. Repetition reinforces cycles. If you continually say later, you unknowingly strengthen the very outcome you fear. The motion continues, and with each delay, it accelerates. But hear this clearly. Acceleration works both ways. Just as negative momentum grows through neglect, positive momentum grows through immediate obedience. The same spiritual current that has been carrying something toward consequence can be redirected toward restoration if you act within the window. That is why the 2-minute call was not dramatic exaggeration. It was strategic mercy. Something has been aligning in your life. It may involve relationships, decisions, spiritual positioning, or even your sense of calling. There are crossroads moments when unseen forces wait for your agreement before proceeding further. Heaven will not override your will. It invites your cooperation. And when cooperation is withheld too long, the system continues without adjustment. Think about moments in history when warnings were issued before collapse. People often ignored them because nothing appeared urgent at first glance. Yet the signs were there. Cracks in structures, subtle tremors before the earthquake, flickers before the blackout. The tragedy was not lack of warning. It was lack of response. Right now, you are being told that the tremors have already begun. This is not to induce fear. It is to awaken awareness. Awareness is a gift. It gives you power to act before impact. And that is why this message carries weight. Because heaven is revealing movement before manifestation. If you have been sensing urgency lately, that was not coincidence. If you have felt a growing discomfort about something you once tolerated, that was not random. If you have experienced repeated nudges to address an issue you keep postponing, that was not imagination. It was the sound of motion increasing. The danger is not that something has been set in motion. The danger is pretending it has not. The danger is assuming there will always be time to fix what you keep delaying. Time is a gift, but it is also a boundary. And when God says before 11:59 p.m., He is emphasizing boundary. Yet even now, there is hope. The fact that you are hearing this means the switch has not fully been crossed. The track can still be adjusted. The domino can still be removed. The current can still be redirected. But not through passive listening. Not through emotional agreement alone. Through decisive action. You are not powerless in this moment. You are positioned. What has been set in motion does not have to end in loss. It can end in breakthrough, if you respond before the momentum locks in. This is the weight of the hour. This is why the alert was urgent. And this is why what you do next matters more than what you have done before. There are moments in life that feel ordinary while you are standing in them, but later you look back and realize you were standing at the edge of a point of no return. A point of no return is not always dramatic. It does not always come with loud alarms or visible countdowns. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as another day, another choice, another opportunity to respond. But once crossed, it cannot simply be undone. When God says you will not be able to reverse what happens next, He is speaking about thresholds. Thresholds are spiritual boundaries. On one side, there is grace to adjust, to repent, to realign. On the other side, there is consequence that must run its course. The frightening part is not that thresholds exist. The frightening part is how casually people approach them. Think about a door slowly closing. At first, you can still step through easily. As it continues to move, you must act faster to catch it. But once it shuts completely, pushing against it will not reopen it unless someone from the other side unlocks it again. Some doors in life do reopen. Others do not. The wisdom lies in recognizing when the door is still moving and acting before it seals. A point of no return is often the result of repeated delay. Rarely does someone wake up one morning and suddenly find themselves beyond reversal. Instead, it is small compromises, small postponements, small dismissals of conviction. Each one inches you closer to a boundary line. And because nothing catastrophic happens immediately, you assume there is still plenty of time. But time is not endless. There are relational points of no return, where hearts harden to a degree that reconciliation becomes nearly impossible. There are spiritual points of no return, where sensitivity to God's voice becomes dull because it was ignored too often. There are opportunity points of no return, where doors close not out of punishment, but because the season has shifted and the window has expired. This is why heaven is urgent right now. Not because destruction is inevitable, but because a threshold is near. And once certain consequences fully unfold, they cannot simply be wished away. Words spoken in anger cannot be unheard. Habits fed long enough can become strongholds. Opportunities neglected long enough can be reassigned. The phrase "you will not be able to reverse what happens next" carries weight because it highlights responsibility. Reversal requires early intervention. If a small fire is caught early, it can be extinguished quickly. But if left unattended, it spreads beyond control. The same is true in the spiritual realm. Patterns that are interrupted early are easier to break. Patterns allowed to mature become harder to dismantle. Yet this is not a message of hopelessness. It is a message of urgency wrapped in mercy. You are being warned before the threshold is fully crossed. You are being shown the edge while there is still space to step back. That is grace. Grace is not the removal of consequence after it has matured. Grace is the warning before it matures. Ask yourself honestly, where have you been assuming there is more time than there actually is? What conversation have you delayed? What obedience have you postponed? What habit have you excused? What conviction have you silenced? These are not small matters if they have been repeated. Repetition strengthens direction. Direction determines destination. The tragedy of a point of no return is not that it exists. The tragedy is realizing too late that you were warned and chose comfort over correction. Many people only recognize thresholds in hindsight. They look back and say, "That was the moment I should have acted." But hindsight does not grant reversal. It only offers regret. Right now, you are not in hindsight. You are in decision. There is still elasticity in your situation. There is still room to pivot. But elasticity does not last forever. The longer something stretches in the wrong direction, the more force it takes to pull it back. Eventually, it snaps into its new shape. God's urgency is not cruelty. It is protection. He is not trying to control you. He is trying to keep you from stepping into something that will take far more pain to correct later. The seriousness of this hour is connected to proximity. You are closer to the threshold than you realize. Do not let familiarity blind you. Just because a situation has lingered without visible consequence does not mean it is harmless. Sometimes the delay of consequence is what creates the illusion of safety. But once the tipping point is reached, acceleration follows quickly. This is your moment to interrupt the approach, to refuse to drift across a line you cannot uncross, to take the warning seriously while it is still a warning and not a reality. You are not powerless at the edge of a point of no return. You are empowered. If you act now, a window has not fully closed. The door is not fully shut. The threshold has not been fully crossed. But you are standing close enough to feel the shift in the air. What happens next depends on whether you treat this as just another message, or as the final alert it truly is. Tonight is not an ordinary night. It is a night unlike any other, marked by divine precision and spiritual significance. The urgency in God's message, "Open this before 11:59 p.m., is not arbitrary. That hour, that final minute, carries a weight of transition that many overlook until it is too late. There is a spiritual rhythm to time, and God aligns moments to moments, seasons to seasons, and opportunities to decisions. Tonight represents a crossroads between what has been set in motion and what could still be redirected by your immediate response. Every day has its moments, but tonight carries the significance of a spiritual hinge. The hinge is the turning point, the pivotal moment when momentum either solidifies or can be interrupted. Imagine a wheel poised at the top of a hill. Even the smallest nudge at this moment will determine whether it rolls downward uncontrollably or settles safely in place. That is what tonight represents. Heaven is poised, waiting to see how you will respond before the clock strikes 11:59 p.m. Once that minute passes, the natural consequences of what has already been set in motion begin to unfold without pause, without opportunity for reversal. Time, in a spiritual sense, is never random. God's assignment of this particular night This particular hour is strategic. It is designed to test attentiveness, obedience, and willingness to prioritize divine instruction over everything else. Consider the urgency. God does not need your 24 hours. He does not need your week. He only asks for 2 minutes. But even those 2 minutes are critical. Within them lies the power to shift your trajectory, to recalibrate what has been accumulating unseen, and to place you back into alignment with divine order. These 2 minutes are like a lever. Small effort, massive impact. The final hour before midnight represents completion. Midnight is symbolic of transition and new beginnings, but it is also the moment when doors can close. The 11:59 p.m. warning is not arbitrary. It is the last instant before the system changes. Spiritual laws dictate that some alignments require a threshold of response, a tipping point where heaven must either intervene or allow events to continue along their current path. Tonight, your response, or lack thereof, determines which path is activated. Think about moments in your past where timing made all the difference. Perhaps there was a chance you delayed, only to look back later and realize that waiting cost you a breakthrough, a relationship, or peace. Tonight is not like those moments. Tonight carries the weight of immediacy because the movement has already begun. This is why God specifies the exact hour. The clock is more than a measure of time. It is a signal of urgency, a call to prioritize divine alignment over human convenience. The spiritual significance of tonight extends beyond the individual. Every choice you make in alignment with God's direction not only affects your own life, but also the spiritual atmosphere around you. Obedience in this moment activates protection, opens doors, and creates pathways that influence others. Delay, however, strengthens the very momentum you were warned about, and this is not just metaphorical. Spiritual laws operate whether you understand them or not, and tonight is a litmus test for whether you respond before the momentum fully takes over. Distractions will come, as they always do. You may feel the pull to postpone, to scroll through messages, to rationalize that 2 minutes can wait. That is precisely why tonight matters. Resistance is always strongest just before breakthroughs. The enemy knows the power of your obedience and will attempt to dilute your focus. But divine timing is about precision. Missing this window, even for trivial distractions, risks letting consequences unfold unchecked. Tonight also matters because of the cumulative nature of divine movement. What has been set in motion will continue to unfold, but tonight offers a rare chance to intercept that flow. Think of it as a spiritual river. Currents have been gathering momentum, carrying outcomes forward. The river is already moving, but tonight provides the opportunity to place a dam, redirect the stream, or purify the water before it reaches a point where intervention is no longer effective. Your 2 minutes of focus, your immediate response, can halt what would otherwise have irreversible effects. Do not underestimate the weight of obedience in the closing minutes of the day. Throughout Scripture, God emphasizes the importance of timely action. From the call to Joshua to be strong and courageous to the instructions to the Israelites to pass through the Red Sea at God's timing, divine outcomes are always connected to precise alignment with His instruction. Tonight, God is giving you your Joshua moment, your point to act decisively, and your opportunity to step into protection and favor that others may miss because they delayed. This is why procrastination is dangerous. Procrastination is not merely a habit of the human mind. It is a spiritual risk. When God signals immediacy, even small hesitation can set motion toward outcomes that cannot be reversed later. Every second counts, and the final minutes before midnight are more potent than you realize. Your focus and your action tonight are far more valuable than any delay, any rationalization, or any false sense of security. Tonight matters because it is the intersection of mercy and momentum. Mercy is still speaking. Momentum is already moving. Your willingness to respond immediately determines whether mercy interrupts the momentum or whether momentum continues unchallenged. The weight of tonight is not about fear. It is about the opportunity to partner with God in redirecting what has been set in motion. Those who act in alignment now will witness favor, clarity, and protection. Those who delay may find themselves watching from the outside as events unfold without their influence. This is your spiritual moment, the night when attention is more critical than intention. What you do in the next 2 minutes matters infinitely more than the hours you spent procrastinating in the past. The alarm is sounding. The final alert is given. The window is narrow. Tonight, at 11:59 p.m., the threshold will either be crossed or preserved depending on your immediate response. The night matters because destiny waits for no one. And tonight, your destiny is standing at the door, knocking gently, asking only for your attention, your surrender, your 2 minutes. Will you answer? Will you meet God where He has positioned you, at this precise hour, before the clock moves past the opportunity forever? The decision you make tonight carries eternal weight, spiritual significance, and the potential to redirect what has already been set in motion. When God issues a message of urgency, there is a spiritual counterforce working quietly to ensure it is ignored. The enemy does not usually confront directly. He rarely attacks with thunder and lightning or dramatic events. Instead, he works through distraction, doubt, and delay. He knows the power of your immediate response. He knows that if you act swiftly on a divine instruction, momentum shifts, doors open, and blessings are released that could completely disrupt his plans. And that is why he works subtly, whispering, deceiving, and redirecting your attention at the very moment when clarity and obedience are most critical. Have you ever noticed how the moment you feel an inner nudge to pray, make a decision, or act, something else suddenly demands your attention? Perhaps it's a message, a notification, a small task, or an idea that seems urgent but is ultimately trivial. That is no coincidence. That is a spiritual tactic designed to keep you occupied with the noise of life rather than aligned with God's voice. The enemy thrives on postponement. The longer he can make you delay, the stronger the momentum of what has already been set in motion becomes. He understands that hesitation allows events to unfold unchecked, pushing you closer to a point of no return. Doubt is another weapon in his arsenal. The enemy will make you question the authenticity of your conviction. Is this really God speaking? He whispers. Maybe it's just your imagination. Maybe it will wait. Maybe it's not that serious. Doubt erodes your certainty and weakens your spiritual discernment. It turns a clear warning into something negotiable. But God's messages are never negotiable. When heaven speaks, it is precise. When a final alert is issued, delay is dangerous. The enemy's strategy is to blur your focus and make the urgent feel optional, knowing that your indecision strengthens the trajectory of what has already been set in motion. The enemy also works through busyness and distraction. He exploits your schedule, your commitments, and your attention. He knows that human minds are easily pulled toward convenience, entertainment, or comfort. He floods your mental space with trivial thoughts and tasks, making the critical seem less important. Later, he whispers, "Just wait. There will be another opportunity." But there may not be another opportunity. Once the window closes, the chain reaction that has begun moves forward without intervention. Your 2 minutes of obedience are all that is required to intercept momentum. Anything less allows the current to continue. Fear is yet another tool in his arsenal. He may amplify the pressure you feel about acting immediately, trying to make urgency feel like panic, which can cause paralysis. He wants you to misinterpret God's call as stress, anxiety, or overreaction. The enemy relies on fear-induced hesitation because it diminishes clarity and weakens action. But true spiritual discernment distinguishes urgency from panic. When God calls for immediate response, the Spirit recognizes it. Fear is designed to silence that recognition and keep you from acting while the clock is still open. The enemy's strategy often combines several tactics at once: doubt, distraction, busyness, and fear. Together, they create a spiritual fog. The subtlety of his approach makes it difficult to recognize until it is too late. He wants to convince you that 2 minutes are insignificant, that delay will not matter, and that divine instruction can wait until a better time. But divine timing does not wait. Windows that close are absolute. Chains of events that begin are unstoppable without intervention. And the enemy's delight is found in every soul that hesitates and misses alignment. Recognize that resistance rising within you is not a sign that you should postpone. It is a signal that you are standing in the exact position where obedience matters most. The stronger the bull to ignore, the greater the power of what you are about to intercept. The resistance is a confirmation, not a contradiction. The enemy is aware of your potential to act in alignment with God, and he is desperate to prevent it. But his efforts have limitations. They cannot fully block someone who chooses immediate, decisive action. You may also notice self-sabotage at the exact moment divine alignment presents itself. Thoughts like, "I'll respond later," or "This doesn't feel right now," or even, "I'll need more time to prepare," are tactics of delay. These are the enemy's tools to reinforce spiritual momentum you were warned about. Recognizing them is critical because awareness alone begins to break their power. The moment you name distraction, doubt, fear, or delay as a spiritual tactic rather than a mere coincidence, you reclaim authority to act decisively. Tonight, more than ever, your focus must resist this spiritual strategy. You must prioritize obedience over comfort, clarity over confusion, and action over hesitation. The enemy cannot physically prevent you from answering God, but he can attempt to paralyze your will. That is why the urgency of the 2-minute window is emphasized. Every second counts, and every attempt at distraction is a signal that your alignment carries real power. What has already been set in motion can be redirected, delayed, or even neutralized, but only if you refuse to allow these spiritual tactics to sway your attention. The enemy's interference is strongest just before breakthroughs. The moment you feel that tug, that pressure, that inner call to act, is exactly the moment he fears most. He knows that if you engage fully with God now, everything he has relied on, the momentum of delay, the unaddressed patterns, the spiritual current of what is unfolding, can be interrupted. That is why resistance is always timed, why doubt is always planted, and why busyness always peaks just before the critical point of response. Your awareness of these strategies is the first step in overcoming them. Recognition activates spiritual authority. Once you understand that delay, doubt, fear, and distraction are spiritual tactics, you are empowered to act with discernment. 2 minutes of focused attention can interrupt a chain reaction that has been in motion for days, weeks, or even months. 2 minutes can recalibrate what has been misaligned and place you back under protection, favor, and divine orchestration. Tonight, the choice is yours. You have been warned. You have been alerted. You know the strategies that seek to make you ignore this moment. Do not be deceived. The enemy's tactics are real, but your authority in God is greater. Refuse delay. Refuse distraction. Refuse doubt. Say yes to God's immediate instruction. Act decisively, and you will witness momentum redirecting, blessings being released, and protection activating. Here is a profound consequence that comes when God is skipped, ignored, or postponed. Many treat divine messages as optional, believing that their daily routine, convenience, or comfort takes precedence over immediate obedience. Yet skipping God is never neutral. It is an action that shifts momentum, strengthens what has already been set in motion, and allows the current of consequence to continue unchallenged. The weight of this consequence is rarely immediate, which makes it even more dangerous. Its impact is often cumulative, growing quietly, invisibly, until one day it manifests in ways that cannot be reversed. When you skip God, even once, you are setting a pattern in motion. Repetition strengthens the trajectory. Every time you delay, you are effectively giving permission for the spiritual current to continue along its predetermined path. This could manifest as lost opportunities, broken relationships, diminished favor, or spiritual resistance in areas where you were once sensitive to God's direction. Skipping God is not a small error. It is a realignment in the spiritual realm that shifts momentum. The universe, bound by divine law, responds to this alignment, whether consciously acknowledged or not. Consider the relational consequences. God's guidance often leads to reconciliation, restoration, or connection. When ignored, relationships that could have been healed or strengthened begin to fracture. Words left unsaid, calls left unmade, forgiveness delayed. These create gaps that grow wider over time. The silence becomes a wedge. Opportunities to correct misunderstandings, release bitterness, or act in love are missed. These relational gaps are often subtle at first, unnoticed by the human mind, but in the spiritual realm, they are accumulations that influence outcomes significantly. Spiritually, skipping God dulls discernment. Your sensitivity to His voice diminishes each time you delay obedience. The still, small voice becomes harder to hear. Conviction becomes easier to rationalize. Delays build resistance in the spirit, and what once felt urgent now feels optional. This is precisely what the enemy wants. He relies on your continued delay to strengthen the momentum of consequences, ensuring that once the threshold is crossed, your ability to intervene is drastically reduced. The consequences of ignoring God also extend to opportunities and timing. Many doors that open in life are conditional upon alignment with divine instruction. Obedience is the key that unlocks potential. Delay is the lock that seals doors. A single moment of skipped instruction may not close a door permanently, but repeated hesitation or dismissal increases the likelihood that timing will expire. When the threshold is reached, even the most fervent prayer may only bring comfort, not restoration. The window that was open before may never fully reopen. Tonight, the window is clear. The alert has been given. The hour is nearing its final minute, and the consequences of skipping God are pressing. Those who delay in moments like this risk stepping into an irreversible current. Momentum that has already been set in motion will continue, and the protective interventions available through obedience may no longer be fully accessible. This is why urgency matters so much. Obedience now changes outcomes. Hesitation allows consequences to proceed. Skipping God also affects your sense of peace. There is a spiritual unease that accompanies delayed obedience, a weight on the heart that cannot be explained by external circumstances. It is the awareness that something is unresolved, that divine instruction hath been postponed. That weight grows heavier over time. It becomes distraction, confusion, and a subtle unrest that permeates your decisions. The consequences are not always dramatic. but they are persistent, shaping your life in ways that only become visible with hindsight. Do not underestimate the relational and spiritual cost of postponement. Skipping God in critical moments can alter the trajectory of your life for weeks, months, or even years. Doors of opportunity, favor, and protection are tied to alignment, and misalignment creates gaps that take longer to restore than the initial moment required to act. Every time you respond quickly, momentum is redirected. Every time you hesitate, momentum strengthens its course. The difference between the two is profound. This is why the urgency of tonight cannot be overstated. The instructions, the warning, the 2-minute request, all of it exists to prevent the acceleration of consequences that will follow if the message is skipped. God's call is precise because His understanding of timing is perfect. The spiritual current has already been set in motion, and tonight is the chance to intercept it. A delayed response strengthens the current. A timely response neutralizes it. This is the power of decisive obedience. Even now, you have the choice. You can step into alignment by surrendering these next 2 minutes to focus fully on God's instruction. You can refuse the distractions, the doubts, the rationalizations that the enemy will use to keep you from acting. You can declare, "I will not skip God." This declaration, spoken with sincerity, shifts momentum. It releases divine intervention into what has been moving toward consequence. It signals readiness, receptivity, and alignment. Type "I am chosen" in the comments if this resonates with you and you are taking your 2-minute obedience seriously. Blessing code 981 is now activated. As you declare this, understand that you are not only repositioning yourself, but also influencing the spiritual atmosphere around you. Immediate obedience today neutralizes the consequences that may have otherwise grown stronger. The windows of favor, protection, and alignment begin to open in response to your decision. And now, take a moment to reflect on the magnitude of skipping God. What doors could close if you delay again? Which moments of divine favor are waiting for your immediate response? Tonight, the difference between moving forward in alignment and stepping into consequence depends entirely on your willingness to act now. Your 2 minutes are not just a brief period, they are the pivot point. Do not let the enemy convince you that this is trivial. Every second you invest in obedience shifts what has already been set in motion. You are not powerless. The opportunity to intercept, redirect, and activate favor is within your grasp. Skipping God has consequences, but responding in faith activates protection, alignment, and momentum for blessings. Tonight, the decision is yours. Act decisively. Act immediately. You not allow distractions, doubts, or delay to determine what unfolds. This is your moment to reclaim what hath been set in motion, and the consequences of ignoring it will only solidify if you hesitate. Every choice carries weight, but some choices define seasons. Tonight, you are standing at such a threshold. The message you are hearing is not ordinary. It is a divine invitation to step into alignment, to interrupt momentum, to make a decision that determines the trajectory of your life for the coming days, months, and even years. What you choose in this moment is more than an action. It is a declaration of intent, a partnership with God, and a pivot that can reshape your future. The choice to respond now is not just about obedience. It is about reclaiming what has already been set in motion and positioning yourself for divine favor. The spiritual world operates on laws that are precise and unchanging. Timing, alignment, and response determine outcomes. The current has already been set in motion. Momentum has begun, and patterns are forming. If you act decisively tonight, you intervene in that current. You redirect it. You place yourself in a position of protection and provision. Delay, on the other hand, strengthens what was moving toward consequence. And once the threshold is crossed, reversing that course becomes infinitely more difficult. This is why the 2-minute window is so critical. It is the line between intervention and inevitability. Think of life as a series of rivers, each flowing toward its own destination. Some rivers are gentle, some are swift, but all are influenced by the choices made along the way. Your obedience tonight acts like a dam or a bridge. It can redirect the flow, stop the current from causing damage, or allow blessings to pour where they were intended. Ignoring the moment, even for a single distraction, allows the current to continue unchecked. Doors close, favor is delayed, protection is paused, and patterns that could have been broken gain strength. This is the defining nature of your choice. The decision to act immediately is not merely symbolic, it carries measurable spiritual impact. When you align with God's instruction now, momentum shifts. The blessing that was poised to be blocked by delay is released. Favor that was delayed is accelerated. Peace that was interrupted is restored. The timing of every opportunity in your life, both seen and unseen, responds to your willingness to act. Your choice tonight is a pivot point that can activate unseen shifts in relationships, finances, health, and spiritual growth. Do not underestimate the power of obedience. The 2 minutes God asks for are not insignificant. In these 2 minutes you can release repentance, surrender, faith, and attention. You can declare alignment and refuse delay. You can reject fear, distraction, and doubt. Your heart, focused and undivided, carries more authority than the distractions attempting to divert you. The spiritual realm recognizes sincere engagement. Even a brief moment of genuine submission can neutralize momentum that has already been set in motion and activate divine intervention. The enemy will continue to fight for your hesitation. He will attempt to convince you that these 2 minutes can wait, that divine timing is flexible, that nothing serious will happen if you postpone. This is a lie. The weight of what has already been set in motion is real. The difference between blessing and loss, protection and exposure, favor and delay, depends on your immediate action. The enemy fears decisive obedience because it disrupts everything he has been building in the background. Tonight, your choice is clear. Act decisively or allow momentum to continue without intervention. Your obedience is not only a personal act, it influences the spiritual atmosphere around you. When you act, favor is released not just for you, but for those connected to your sphere of influence. When you delay, consequences ripple outward, affecting opportunities, relationships, and spiritual alignment that could have been preserved or enhanced through your immediate response. Now is the time to take authority over what has been set in motion. Stand firm against distraction, doubt, and delay. Say yes to God with intentionality. Declare that you will not allow fear, busyness, or skepticism to prevent your response. Commit these 2 minutes to Him fully, knowing that in doing so, you are interrupting momentum that threatens to solidify into consequence. You are reclaiming your alignment, protecting your destiny, and opening doors that were positioned for your advancement. Type "I stand in alignment" in the comments as a prophetic declaration of obedience. As you do, know that this is a spiritual act of authority. Blessing code 514 is now activated. By making this declaration, you are not just responding to a video, you are participating in a divine realignment that affects momentum, opportunity, and spiritual flow. Your action tonight reverberates in ways you cannot yet fully see, releasing favor, protection, and breakthrough into your life. And now, take a moment to internalize the gravity of your choice. You are standing at a crossroads. One path continues momentum that has already been set in motion, carrying potential consequences that cannot easily be reversed. The other path aligns with God's instruction, intercepts that momentum, and activates a wave of favor, protection, and divine intervention. Your decision in these 2 minutes is the defining choice of your next season. Do not treat this lightly. Do not postpone. Do not allow the enemy to steal your breakthrough through distraction or doubt. The power of decisive action in the spiritual realm cannot be overstated. 2 minutes of focus and obedience tonight is the difference between allowing momentum to dictate outcomes or reclaiming authority over your life. As you take action now, know that the spiritual realm is responding. Heaven recognizes your surrender, your alignment, and your refusal to delay. Protection is being activated. Favor is being released. Momentum is being redirected. Your choice tonight is not just a decision. It is a declaration that you will no longer allow divine instruction to be ignored. This is the moment that defines the next season of your life. When you respond immediately to God's instruction, even for just 2 minutes, something extraordinary begins to happen in the spiritual realm. The moment of obedience activates divine momentum, redirecting the course of events that have already been set in motion. Your willingness to act without delay signals alignment with God's timing, and this alignment triggers protection, favor, and blessings in ways that words cannot fully describe. Immediate obedience is not just an act of discipline. It is a catalytic moment where heaven responds, adjusts, and releases favor specifically tailored for you. Think about the energy of momentum. Once an action is in motion, whether it is consequence or blessing, it carries force. Delayed response allows momentum to continue in its current path, often toward undesirable outcomes. But when you respond promptly, you intercept that momentum. You insert divine authority into a sequence that was previously moving independently, and this can neutralize patterns of delay, misalignment, or missed opportunity. The spiritual realm recognizes precision. Timing is critical. Immediate action places you in exact alignment with God's plan, activating shifts that were waiting for your agreement. Protection is one of the first results of immediate obedience. The forces that move in opposition to God's plan, distractions, resistance, and spiritual attacks, lose their power over you when you act without hesitation. By responding now, you place yourself under a covering of divine favor, where unseen shields are activated. Obstacles that appeared inevitable may suddenly become manageable, and situations that once seemed out of control begin to stabilize. Immediate obedience signals readiness, and readiness invites supernatural intervention. The same current that carried potential difficulty now becomes a channel for divine protection. Favor is released in a similar way. Opportunities that have been delayed, doors that seemed closed, and resources that appeared inaccessible are now repositioned. Immediate response opens access to blessings that were contingent upon alignment. Think of it as a seed planted at the perfect moment, watered and nurtured immediately. It grows faster and stronger than one that is delayed or neglected. Timing is everything. When you act at the precise moment of God's instruction, your obedience multiplies the effect of what is being released into your life. Immediate obedience also clears spiritual resistance. Patterns of delay, indecision, and distraction lose authority over your situation when you act promptly. What may have seemed like obstacles or repeated setbacks begin to dissolve. The enemy's influence over your hesitation weakens because you have inserted yourself into the equation of divine timing. The power of your decision to act immediately interrupts the spiritual strategies that have been working to delay, distract, or deceive you. Your agreement with God's instruction creates a shift that cannot be reversed by human indecision or opposition. Peace accompanies immediate action. There is a clarity and quiet that enters the soul when you obey promptly. Even if circumstances remain outwardly unchanged, the spirit recognizes alignment. Anxiety, confusion, and hesitation give way to confidence, assurance, and divine guidance. That peace is evidence of the spiritual shift taking place. It is the confirmation that you are no longer walking in passive delay but actively participating in the divine orchestration of your life. Immediate obedience also positions you for acceleration. Decisions and actions taken in alignment with God at the right moment accelerate breakthroughs that could have taken months or years to manifest. Momentum shifts from stagnation to rapid forward movement. Blessings, opportunities, and guidance that were previously delayed are released with speed and precision. Your willingness to act decisively opens new avenues that were previously hidden or inaccessible. Spiritual alignment achieved through immediate response has ripple effects beyond your personal life. Your family, friends, and community can be affected positively when you step into obedience. Your action may serve as a catalyst for others who are waiting for direction, clarity, or courage. The blessings you activate extend outward, creating an atmosphere where divine favor touches multiple areas simultaneously. Immediate obedience is never contained. It multiplies. Another critical aspect of responding immediately is the interruption of what had been set in motion. Events, patterns, or consequences that have been accumulating due to prior hesitation can now be intercepted. Think of it as breaking a line of falling dominoes. The chain of events that was moving toward potential difficulty is disrupted. By stepping into immediate obedience, you change the trajectory of momentum, not just for yourself but also for the circumstances connected to you. The timing is key. The power is in action. Finally, immediate obedience strengthens spiritual sensitivity. Each act of prompt alignment with God sharpens your awareness and discernment. You become more attuned to His voice and better positioned to recognize future instructions. Faith is reinforced. Trust is deepened. Your soul begins to move with precision and rhythm with God's timing. What was once a challenge in hearing or responding becomes easier to discern and act upon because you have trained your spirit to respond swiftly and decisively. Immediate action is transformative. It activates protection, releases favor, clears resistance, grants peace, accelerates blessings, interrupts negative momentum, and strengthens spiritual sensitivity. It is a small moment with massive implications. The spiritual impact of those 2 minutes cannot be overstated. What has been set in motion may continue without intervention, but your immediate obedience changes everything. Now is the time to act. The opportunity to step into alignment and activate these shifts exists only if you respond without hesitation. The moment is fleeting, and the window is narrow. Your obedience now can intercept momentum, redirect what has been set in motion, and establish divine favor and protection that will impact your life for days, months, and even years to come. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. You are standing on the edge of a final window, the last opportunity before the clock strikes 11:59 p.m., when the shift will begin and the current of what has been set in motion will proceed without the chance for reversal. This is not hyperbole. It is a precise spiritual reality. Every moment of hesitation, every distraction, and every rationalization you entertain now could place you on the wrong side of a threshold that you cannot return from easily. Tonight is the night of decision. Tonight is the night of alignment. Tonight is the night that defines the immediate trajectory of your life. God has called for 2 minutes of your time, not because He needs them, but because in those 2 minutes lies the power to intercept momentum, activate favor, and redirect what has already begun. Many people underestimate what 2 minutes of undivided attention can accomplish. They assume that realignment, protection, or breakthrough requires hours of preparation, elaborate prayers, or grand gestures. But divine action does not operate on human scales of effort. The Spirit recognizes sincerity, obedience, and immediacy. 2 minutes of focused attention to God's instruction is enough to alter the course of what has been set in motion and unlock blessings that have been waiting for your alignment. Tonight is also a test of awareness. The world will try to keep you distracted, just as it has before. Notifications will appear, thoughts will race, doubts will arise. The enemy knows the power of these 2 minutes. He will attempt to convince you that obedience can wait, that the warning is not urgent, that divine timing is flexible. This is a lie. Every second counts. Momentum has already begun, and each delay strengthens the trajectory toward consequences that may be irreversible. Recognize the tactics of distraction, fear, and doubt, and refuse them. Step into your authority. Act decisively. The final call before 11:59 p.m. is also a call to courage. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "I will obey even when I feel unsure. I will act even when the timing seems inconvenient. I will respond even when distractions compete for my attention." Courage isn't choice. It is the conscious decision to align with God's instruction regardless of external pressures or internal hesitation. Your willingness to exercise courage in this moment positions you for protection, favor, and spiritual acceleration. Consider the spiritual principle of thresholds. There are moments when opportunity and protection are available, and there are moments when the threshold has passed, and momentum cannot be interrupted without greater effort or cost. You are approaching such a threshold tonight. Once 11:59 p.m. passes, some doors may close, some favor may be delayed, and some momentum may continue unchecked. Acting now intercepts these forces. It allows divine intervention to redirect outcomes. It activates blessings that would otherwise remain on hold. And it reestablishes alignment with God's timing. This is why the tone of urgency is not fear, it is precision. Fear clouds judgment. Urgency clarifies it. Urgency compels immediate action. This is the final call, not another opportunity, not a suggestion. A call that demands attention and obedience before the window closes. Every warning, every previous nudge, every quiet whisper that you ignored has led to this moment. Tonight is the convergence of mercy and momentum. It is the final chance to step fully into alignment. Immediate response tonight creates momentum for protection. The spiritual forces that have been building in opposition to what you need are neutralized when you obey. Patterns that were forming in your life because of delay are interrupted. Relationships, opportunities, and spiritual favor that could have been hindered are activated instead. You do not need to understand every detail of what hath been set in motion. You only need to act, because your obedience alone alters trajectories in ways your mind cannot fully comprehend. Favor is also released the moment you respond. Opportunities that were waiting for alignment become accessible. The shift is instantaneous in the spiritual realm. While you may not see immediate external change, a realignment occurs. A door that appeared closed may open. An obstacle that felt immovable may soften. Guidance becomes clearer. Your spirit recognizes the shift. Peace replaces uncertainty. Protection shields what is vulnerable. Immediate obedience triggers this sequence because the spiritual realm is designed to respond to alignment with God's instruction. Tonight also matters because it is prophetic. The timing is precise. The final minutes before 11:59 p.m. represent a spiritual hinge, a pivot point where decisions determine immediate outcomes. Once the minute passes, the natural momentum of what has already been set in motion continues according to the law of spiritual order. You are not powerless. You are positioned at the hinge. Your 2 minutes of obedience are enough to redirect the flow, adjust alignment, and establish new patterns of favor. Do not underestimate the precision of this window. This is your final call. This is the last invitation to respond fully, immediately, and decisively. The choice is simple. Act now or allow momentum to continue unchallenged. The stakes are real. The forces are active. The moment is fleeting. And the difference between intervention and passive consequence rests in your hands. Type "I obey now" in the comments as a prophetic declaration of immediate alignment with God. Blessing code 336 is now activated over every person who responds with urgency. As you declare this, understand that you are participating in a spiritual realignment that interrupts momentum, activates favor, and establishes protection. Your action tonight is a decisive step into divine orchestration. Tonight is the night to step into obedience, not hesitation. It is the night to intercept momentum, activate favor, and establish alignment. The final minutes before 11:59 p.m. are your opportunity. Your 2 minutes of undivided focus are enough to transform what has already been set in motion. The clock is counting down, and heaven waits for your response. Do not delay. Do not hesitate. Act now, and watch the trajectory of your life shift in ways only God can orchestrate. As we reach the final part of this message, it is crucial to understand that the urgency, the warnings, and the final call are rooted not in punishment, but in mercy. God's heart is not to frighten you. It is to awaken you. It is to redirect the momentum that has been set in motion and ensure that your life, your relationships, your opportunities, and your destiny are preserved and aligned with His will. Tonight, the 2 minutes that God requested are more than a measure of time. They are an opportunity to step fully into protection, favor, and divine orchestration. You have been invited to respond immediately, and in that response, the mercy of God becomes tangible. Mercy operates through timely intervention. That is why the warning has been urgent, why the final alert has been issued, and why the precise hour of 11:59 p.m. carries spiritual weight. Momentum that hath been forming cannot always be paused indefinitely, but mercy provides the window, the chance for intersection, for alignment, and for redirection. The moment you act, you step under that mercy. Your obedience, even if brief, activates a cascade of divine intervention that alters trajectories, repairs gaps, and repositions favor in your life. Mercy does not wait for perfection. It responds to responsiveness. Tonight, the mercy of God is paired with His faithfulness. While the currents of consequence have begun to flow, your immediate action can shift them. You are not powerless. You are positioned precisely where action matters most. The moment of response, even 2 minutes of sincere focus, is enough to interrupt patterns, neutralize obstacles, and activate blessing. The very forces that were set in motion to carry challenges forward are now redirected in favor of those who respond promptly. This is the intersection of divine urgency and loving intervention. There is also a deeper layer of assurance in this moment. God is not absent, nor is He indifferent. Every warning, every reminder, every call to immediate attention reflects His awareness of your life and your circumstances. He sees the currents forming, the patterns emerging, and the momentum moving toward consequence. And yet, He waits, inviting you to participate in the alignment that prevents what could otherwise become irreversible. Mercy always precedes judgment in the sense of intervention. It comes to save, to protect, and to redirect. This is the hope behind the warning. Immediate response activates more than protection. It also unlocks blessing. Doors that seemed closed begin to open. Opportunities that were delayed due to misalignment are now positioned for release. The peace that comes from alignment replaces confusion. Spiritual clarity is restored. Patterns that were forming to hinder or disrupt you are interrupted. Favor flows in ways that were previously inaccessible. Every obedient step, no matter how brief, multiplies in effect because the spiritual realm responds to alignment faster than any human understanding can measure. Tonight is also a moment for spiritual empowerment. By choosing to respond fully, you are taking authority over what has been set in motion. You are declaring that the momentum will not control you, that delay will not define you, and that hesitation will not dictate your destiny. Your obedience becomes an act of spiritual warfare. Every minute you give in focus, prayer, and surrender diminishes the enemy's influence, interrupts destructive momentum, and positions you for acceleration in your life. The act of responding immediately, even in 2 minutes, carries authority beyond what is visible. Do not underestimate the spiritual significance of this closing moment. You have been warned, guided, and invited. The previous alerts, nudges, and warnings were steps leading to this point. Mercy is still speaking because there is still a window for alignment. The final call tonight is not just about avoiding consequence. It is about stepping into protection, favor, and divine timing that will shape your next season. The choice to respond decisively places you squarely in God's plan, activating favor that goes beyond the immediate moment. Now, receive this prophetic blessing for acting in alignment. Type "I am covered" in the comments if you are stepping fully into obedience tonight. Blessing code 712 is now activated. As you declare this, know that your 2 minutes of obedience are an act of partnership with God. You are not just responding to a video, you are participating in the redirection of momentum, the interruption of consequence, and the activation of blessings that have been waiting for your alignment. This is a spiritual realignment that will reverberate throughout your life. There is assurance in knowing that your response tonight has eternal weight. The mercy extended is a demonstration of God's faithfulness and love. While the currents of momentum were moving, your alignment reestablishes balance. While doors appeared poised to close, your obedience opens them wider. While hesitation could have allowed consequence to solidify, your immediate response activates favor, peace, and protection. The spiritual realm acknowledges your choice, and blessings begin to flow where delay once threatened. Tonight, the ultimate assurance is this: God sees, God hears, and God intervenes when you respond. The warnings were never meant to frighten, they were meant to awaken. The final alert was never meant to pressure, it was meant to position you for intervention. The 2-minute request was never trivial, it was a strategic window for alignment, favor, and blessing. Responding within this window activates mercy that can redirect your life, your circumstances, and your spiritual trajectory. The choice is clear. The window is now. The moment is yours. Finally, receive this closing prophetic support message. Your obedience tonight can be extended through action that empowers the mission of God to reach others. Support through super thanks, channel membership, or PayPal donation via the link in the description or PayPal QR code on screen. Your giving is a prophetic act, a seed sown in the kingdom that will release light, breakthrough, and favor in ways unseen. As you act, open heavens respond, blessings multiply, and spiritual momentum shifts toward alignment not just for you but for countless souls. This is not a request. It is a declaration of divine partnership and prophetic activation. Tonight, mercy has spoken. Tonight, urgency has been given. Tonight, alignment is possible. Your 2 minutes matter more than you can imagine. Obedience now activates favor, interrupts momentum, and seals protection. Stand in faith, act decisively, and step fully into the season God has prepared. The window is now. Respond and receive.